Hey everyone, in today's video, I'm super excited to share with you one of my first collections of photoscanned assets for Unreal Engine. This asset pack that we're going to show today is called Smooth Stones, and it's a collection of small beach style smooth stones ready for Unreal Engine, super high poly, super high detail. So let's take a look at the project here and get started. All right, first things first, the asset pack is available in the marketplace already. I'll leave links down in the description. It's a great way to kind of support me and what I'm doing. So if you decide to inject this into your project, that's how it's set up. So you go to your Epic launcher and you'll inject it right into your project. This one comes with a pretty clean, simple layout here. You can see our folder called Smooth Stones. In the base folder here, you have two different levels. Currently, we're already showing the showcase level. So the showcase level is pretty cool. It shows just kind of a cool little stack of stones that I put together just to kind of show off each one of the stones in a unique way. If your scene does not look like this and you don't have this, it's because there's a HDRI in this background. And if it's all black, you just need to enable that. So let's hop over to our plugins and just search HDRI and make sure that's enabled. You'll probably need to restart your project if it's not already enabled. So the showcase level is a really great way to kind of just take a look at what we got here. I have included this base little wood top here with some free textures. You can take a look and see how high quality these stones actually are. Let's switch over to wireframe, and you can see here as we zoom in, these are nanite enabled, so you're going to see the wireframe kind of open and expand as we move in distance from it. Each stone is about 100K polys. They come with full 8K textures, both diffuse, roughness, and normal. So super, super high detail. It works great with Lumen. However, if you do switch over to path tracing, assuming you have ray tracing enabled in your project, it looks even better. Ray tracing just looks so good with your contact shadows and everything. I want to share a quick little tip with you too here. So these stones are all done to scale. So in actuality, they're only about 3 inches or so big. And so in Unreal, as you get close, normally your camera will start to clip through the objects. You can see I can get pretty close here and it's not clipping through. So if you come down to your command console here and you search near clip, you'll see there's r.set.nearclipplane. And if you set that to 0, it allows you to get much closer to small objects without the camera clipping through. You can see I can get really, really close there. So just a nice little tidbit in case you ever have troubles getting close to smaller objects without the camera clipping through. Let's now go ahead and get into the nitty-gritty of stuff here and show you all the assets that are included in the project file and basic contents that come with it. So let's go to our content browser. It comes cleanly organized in a Smooth Stones folder here. In the base level of the folder, you get both of your showcase and overview map. So the showcase is the one that we're currently looking at, and our overview map, that'll give us an overview of all the assets kind of cleanly laid out in a basic manner so you can take a look at them in an easy way. Here we have 3 different folders. Our meshes folder, which contains, in the root here, contains all of our high poly nanite meshes all ready to go from 1 through 12, the full dozen stones. There is a low folder here, which contains our lower poly versions. These aren't super low poly. They're still probably about 5K or so a piece, but much better than 100K. Back here, we have our collections. So in our collections, there's a selection of different clusters, ground clutter, piles, stacks, and stuff that I put together using actual physically based simulations to create these. We'll show you more of those when we get into that. And under miscellaneous, we have our wood table here. Let's pop back to our root folder here. Under materials, this is where all of our materials are laid out for each stone, cleanly labeled stone 1 through 12. These are all material instances and easy to hop into. I'll go through and show you some of the nice settings that are built into it so you can customize it to make it look and match your particular scene. We do have our master folder here with our master material and our master textures. These are just like flat profile textures being used for the master. Let's hop back into our root folder again. And under textures, these are actual texture maps for the HDRI. This is a free asset from Polyhaven, nice little backdrop. And we have all of our texture sets for Smooth Stone 1 through Smooth Stone 12. Like I said, these all include your albedo or diffuse, normal map, and roughness, all in 8K textures. If you need to, you can look up documentation on how to change that or convert it down to maybe 4K or 2K, depending on your project, if you don't need them quite that high resolution. Now let's go ahead and hop into our overview map here. Let's load that up. And you can see here, this is a nice little overview map of everything that comes included in the asset pack here. So let's start over here on the far left and press G to hide our icons. So here we go, we have the individual stones. So on the left side here, we have our high poly. These run about close to 100K. And our lower poly version is about 5K. So you can see here as we zoom in, these are super nice, super detailed stones. The textures are great. These were all shot in a very flat profile so that no matter what your lighting situation is that you're going to use these in, they will look correct. No baked lighting has been done in the textures. So this is all real-time actual texture lighting. As you can see, as we move around the object here with our sunlight, they will look perfect. We have our 12 stones in low poly. Let me switch to wireframe here and you can take a look. So as I move in closer on these high poly ones, you'll see they get denser and denser because of nanite. And if we move over to our lower poly here, you can see they stay at that lower poly value. Even though they're nanited, they still do move out as you get further away, but you can see a much lower poly version. Next, let's move on over to ground clusters. So the ground clusters are basically, these were generated using actual simulated physics to create these ground clusters that you could use for ArcViz or ground clutter, for landscaping, things of that sort. These are very high poly, high mesh. There's two different versions here. There's a high poly side and a low poly side. High polys run close to about 7 mil, and the lower poly runs about 250K. So these were, since they were done actually simulated and physics-based, you can see as we get down in here, there's not much for like colliding. This is actual like collisions, and they lay on top of each other just like they normally would if you were to lay landscaping. So these are nice little, I believe, 2-meter sections that you can easily take and mix them together. There are 3 different versions, just randomly scattered and done. So you can see here how you could take this one here and you could put it up against that one, or even blend it. I have snapping on here. You could even blend in just a little bit, so you could get some very nice non-repeated actual ground clutter. These are very high poly, so you probably wouldn't really want to use them for game style assets, but more or less visual effects, cinematics, ArcViz, that type of stuff. The lower poly ones are definitely better for that. If you needed to, they're still pretty high poly. We can switch over to wireframe and you can see literally as we get down in the nitty gritty, these are very, very dense high poly meshes here. And then this side is not quite as bad, but still very nice, very good quality. You can see we can get down in here and things still look very, very good, just not quite as smooth. Pun intended on the smooth stones. Next, we have ground scatter. These were created using a procedural system to just randomly scatter and spread the stones, different sizes, scales, rotations, and so forth. These would be nice for just grabbing them and slapping them near your scene, poking it up through the ground or the dirt just a little bit. We have a kind of like a less dense, a medium dense, and a higher density. Depending on your scene, you can use these to just kind of blend right into your ground and just have them poke up just a little bit like that. And last but not least, we have our miscellaneous collection of different stacks here. So we have a pillar. These were all, as I mentioned, simulated, physics-based stacks of rocks. There are a few collisions here, but not too bad. And these would be as if they were actually physically stacked up or created a pillar out of them. We have high poly and low poly versions there on the right. This is a simple little triangle tower stack of them that could be used for something, and a simple just pile of them. So just a couple different collections that you could use for depending on your scene. And we have, that's pretty much an overview of all the different collections that come included in the asset pack and all the individual stones. All right, so I switched back on over to the showcase map here so we could go through some of the materials here and just kind of show you what kind of settings that you can change and modify to make it look how you want it to look. So I have this stone here selected. I'm going to hop into its material instance here. And let me just show you the actual master material real quick. It's super clean, nicely commented and stuff. So in case you want to come in here and make some changes on your own, you can. So we have our diffuse, our roughness, our normal, some specular and metallic settings. And then we also have a dirt or snow kind of look blend layer on top that you can use for, depending on how your scene is, you can create that there. So let's hop over to our material instance. I'm gonna shrink this down here just so we can take a look at our options. So on this particular rock, each material instance comes with settings for diffuse power. So diffuse power is kind of like a sort of a brightness adjustment. It's how strong the actual diffuse texture is. We have our hue shift. So if you decided you wanted to create more of a colored look, you didn't want them to be quite this gray or blue, you could definitely change that. You're not going to see a whole lot until we do let's boost up our saturation real quick here. And then we could kind of hue shift it. And you can see we're starting to get some different colors down in there. So a great way to be able to kind of change that up and match your scene depending on what type of scene you have. We also have our diffuse contrast. So if you want a more contrasty kind of look or a less contrast, really kind of flattened out profile, you can do that. As I mentioned, there's a saturation there. So if you want to saturate the color a little bit more, there's also metallic look in case you decided you wanted to make the stone look more metallic. You can do that. There is a specular level. It's set at just a 0.5, which is pretty neutral for now. If you wanted a higher specular value, you can, or lower. We also have a diffuse tint color. So you can come in here. Some of these have already been slightly tinted just so I could get them all to match pretty well. But you could definitely come in here and choose a different tint color. If you decided you want to tint the whole rock a crazy color, you can do that. And of course, you also have a tint power, so you can boost or lower that value. Next, I'm going to hop over here. I'm going to skip the snow and dirt layer here. I'm going to go down to normals so you can adjust the normal map power. Typically, this is like a flatness level, but I've reversed that. So the greater the number, the higher the normal value. You can get pretty crazy with it. I would keep it probably anywhere between 1 and 2 is usually pretty good. You can change the texture in case you wanted to add your own to all of these here. You can do the diffuse, texture, and roughness. However, it is based on the UVs, so just keep that in mind. Under roughness here, we have a general roughness value. 1 is rough and 0 is non-rough. So if you want to make it super glossy and shiny, you can do that. Or if you want to boost it up and make it rough, you can also. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the dirt and snow layer. This is a real simple world position based layer that you can add. So go ahead and check that on to turn it on, and you'll see here automatically it's going to start showing as if there's like kind of a dirt layer on top of it. This could be great if you wanted to basically get it to blend into some sort of ground or snow level. And in here you can easily adjust the let me turn these all on here real quick. You have the actual texture here, which you can change to other stuff if you choose so. It comes with a very basic dirt or sandy kind of texture. There's also a snow texture in here that you can do. Let's just pop that in there. You can see it could generate more of a snow look if you wanted to. Let's take it back to the dirt. It's a little easier to see in this scene. There is a color value, so if you decided you want to adjust that to any type of other color that you want, you can easily do that. I've seen a lot of cool stuff lately with doing these red tops on a very like white stone or white style rock with these cool reddish pink tops. It's pretty cool. There is the snow and dirt layer power. This is basically more of a brightness adjustment, darkness, and lighter values. you can do the snow. This is the actual color power, so you can basically boost just the color of it if you need to. There's also a hue shift, so you can do a hue shift if you need to do that. Same thing, contrast. You can boost up the contrast of that layer, and this you can always add in any of your own textures. So if you wanted something with a little more I don't know, roughness or style to it, you could easily do that. More detail and texture, you can always change it up. Or you could even use the actual diffuse texture from whatever ground you're putting it on. You could easily just drop that into this here and just use the albedo or diffuse. There's also the saturation level here. You can always do that. And the bottom two here is your blend sharpness and blend bias. So these two, you kind of have to dial those in just to see how you want it to blend in your scene. This is what's actually making the actual blend of that top layer on top. You want it to be super obvious. You want it to have a sharp blend at the bottom. Do you want it to be less, you can have it follow down further down the stone. You only want it just barely at the tops of it. Yeah, you just use those two values to help dial that in. So there you have it. This is my first collection of actual photo-scanned objects that I'm going to be putting together for Unreal Engine. These are going to be super high quality, super detailed, the textures, the polys, and so forth. I am actually going to be working on doing a re-topo of the meshes so that we can get some slightly cleaner topology compared to actual photo-scanned. And once I get that down, I will be updating the asset pack, so you'll have some nicer, topology on both the high end and the low end poly models. And I'm super excited for this. I think it's really cool. It's kind of a new thing that I'm getting into, and so far the results have been pretty exciting. I really like the look of it. So make sure you check it out. I'll leave down in the description links to the marketplace where you can purchase it, and I have a dedicated page that talks a little bit more about the asset pack and shows some detailed shots of how it works and so forth. These are super easy. You can drag and drop them into any type of scene. You want to do something up close, they're super detailed for close-up environment. Or if you want to do a bigger landscape, you can use the lower poly versions. Slap them in the foliage painter and spread them around. Use a PCG, either a dropper tool, whatever you want to do. You can do a lot of cool stuff with them. They're set up for collisions already and ready to go outside the box. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. I'll look forward to some other asset packs coming soon. I have some pretty cool ideas and some pretty big projects coming soon with some larger environment objects photo scans. So thank you so much for checking out this video. If you'd like to support me, please check out those links below. Until next time, peace out.